Hello, everybody. Alex, I don't know if there's a way to get closer. Okay. Okay, well, welcome. Welcome. Can everybody hear me okay? Hello, friends. It's so good to see a room full of smiling, happy faces, right? And what a beautiful group you are. Well, I wanted to first welcome you. My name is Debbie. I'm the director of the Open Arms Pregnancy Clinic, and I'm really looking forward to being here together tonight. But I wanted to ask you to please join me in thanking Nicole, who is playing our background music during the dinner. And the servers have been working hard. They're all volunteers and so grateful. Well, while you finish eating, and it's okay, keep eating. Those who are collecting plates, go ahead and keep doing that. That's fine. But I wanted to bring up a very special friend. This is somebody I've recently met. Her name is Sally Klein O'Connor. She's a Jewish believer in Christ. She's a wife, she's a mother of 3. She's a co-founder, along with her husband, Michael, of Improbable People Ministries, which is an independent music ministry. And really what they do is they write songs that express God's heart to love and heal the broken and the lost. And I don't know if I've ever known somebody who does that so well. Because every human being is made in the image of God, or Imago Dei. We need to learn to see ourselves through His eyes and through His heart. Please welcome Sally Klein O'Connor.
Dust and ashes, swirling breath, Imago Dei. for my loving it with joy. Imago Dei, each being blessed with form and with grace. Imago Dei. The breath of God to kiss the face. Imago Dei. Written in dust, image of God. Who can say one's more or less? Imago Dei, created through his boundless love. Imago Dei, what keeps us from becoming a beast? Imago Dei. His order to make great the least. Imago Dei. In the image of the Most High God, each and every one is made. Or hands that cradled, arms that sculpted us to be. Imago Dei, Imago Dei. Dust and ashes swirling breath. Imago Dei, formed by love and knit with joy. Imago Dei, each being blessed with form and with grace. Imago Dei.
What brought me to Open Arms is I, of course, had the surprise of finding out that I was pregnant. So I was really scared.
When I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't think. I went blank. I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't really know what to do.
The pregnancy was absolutely unexpected.
Yes, we would have loved to lean on family, but at that point in time, you know, that was not something we could do.
We talked about abortion. We were undecided with my partner. He was more confident than I was, actually, with having the baby.
Open Arms kind of supported me in every way. When I first came, the first question was, how did you get here? Like, tell us your story. Once I was able to actually process my story and tell it myself, immediately jumped in Open Arms with prayer and counseling, which I think early in the pregnancy, we don't realize how much we need that, but your life just did like a complete 180. So for that to be addressed before we even jumped into anything else, that was really important.
I didn't plan this. I didn't, exactly want to be pregnant at the time.
We had miscarried right before this, And before that, we did have a termination. And it was definitely hard, to say the least.
So it's a little challenging because I knew I had to make a decision.
I did consider abortion. I don't want to say like it's a sore spot, but I did. Only because like I was young, I was 25, really hadn't figured out life for myself.
Because at the time, my boyfriend and I had just broke up 5 days prior to me finding out, and we weren't in a good place. Yeah. It was a not so fun time.
When someone is here contemplating the option of abortion, they're often not sure about that decision, and they often have a lot of questions and concerns about it, or they are just not fully equipped to make that decision. And so I think by coming to Open Arms, we're able to kind of guide them through those different options. If they have their mind set on abortion, we can talk about the different options that are available to them and encourage them to make a life-affirming decision.
Open Arms definitely provided that support group and for us to stay positive through everything and move forward with our relationship and our baby.
So the approach that we use here when every client comes in is first to see who they are. What are their circumstances? What do they need? What are their concerns?
So when I found out I was pregnant, I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going with this. How do I direct me and a baby now,
Having a baby is not easy. So, and then you have all these plans.
Because, when you're not in a relationship with someone and you're not sure if they're going to be there to help you, you have to think, this is the rest of my life. How am I going to do this?
And we both had different, thoughts on it and went back and forth.
So I could go with A or I could go with B, and either way they're going to have lifelong effects.
When I do an ultrasound for someone who's considering abortion, I really try and just be their friend. I try and be professional yet friendly and try to put myself in her shoes.
We're able to help her and help him process through what are the situations they're facing, what are the challenges, and we're trying to really identify resources and maybe solutions to their problems.
My favorite thing about being a case manager is to care for the clients, to really get to know them, listen to them, and then be able to guide them through this decision.
I would definitely say working with Alex, it more changed my perspective on that fatherhood mentality.
So the men's program is our mirror program to the ladies. We come alongside and help to, encourage, educate, and empower the men within their role in the pregnancy.
Working with Alex, it did give me a lot of confidence. All the lessons that we went through, all the different, the talks that we had, and Alex personally shared some of his experiences too. So that I felt like that also helped to connect with me and open up more.
The ultrasound made it a real experience.
It just shifts your perspective on everything. It's just life, everything.
Once we saw our baby on the screen through the ultrasound and we could see the heartbeat, I vividly remember my better half started tearing up, and I think it was a very emotional moment for us to know. I think one thing is to see a positive pregnancy test, and the other thing is to actually see life beating and thriving.
So we are able to point out that flicker, that motion, that movement is actually the baby's heart that's already beating and growing and developing. And many times that's just when you see big eyes, especially on their partner that sits there and just is amazed that something so little could already have life and have a heartbeat.
And that was for us just visual confirmation that we had created life.
There's no word that can describe, but I'm gonna try to find the best word.
So that was kind of like a surreal moment to take in, that I could even do that. Wow, my body can hold a whole nother human being and create.
When I saw my baby on the ultrasound, I felt so many emotions. Probably excitement.
It was like going through a roller coaster.
When I saw my baby on the ultrasound, I felt impacted.
Love.
A lot of emotions.
The first time I saw my baby on ultrasound here, I felt this sense of like purpose.
Happiness.
Angel.
Hope. Godsend.
I felt very excited.
In that moment, I knew I wanted to be a mother. I knew I wanted to continue with the pregnancy.
Watching the baby's heartbeat, it made me feel like, wow, I'm gonna be a mom. I remember we went back to the car and we're like, I can do this. We are going to be parents because of that heartbeat. So that ultrasound definitely made a very big difference in our lives.
That was absolutely amazing as well. That was incredible.
That, I think, was the initial kind of experience that really solidified like why we wanted to come here, and we knew we were in a very supportive environment.
There's life being formed inside of me right now.
We needed some guidance. We just needed some positivity, people that were going to guide us through what it was like with the first-time pregnancy and being first-time parents and what that was going to look like for us, and we definitely found that.
After the meeting with them, I went back and forth. I still felt like, maybe I could do this. It's not such a bad thing.
When I saw my baby on the ultrasound, I felt excitement.
I knew in that moment I wanted to be a mom.
It wasn't about me anymore. It was just the baby.
I'm stronger today because I am reassured.
I am stronger today because I learned to trust myself. I learned to believe in myself, to love myself, to trust myself, and all that has come from having Kiara. I had to. There is no other way.
This clinic did help give me the tools and the information and knowledge that I needed to be able to be and feel like a complete parent.
Our life would be completely different if we would have never found Open Arms.
I can't even imagine what it would have been like.
It is really nice just to give them information here and know that they can do this.
That is like a whole new level of like womanhood, knowing that you can carry a baby. So that, yeah, it was scary, but it was like a whole whoosh moment in the head, like, yeah, you can do this.
After coming here, I realized this is what I want. This is my baby. I'm gonna be a mom. I'm just so in love, I'm obsessed.
Just across the board, the support was phenomenal. There's clothes, there's shoes, there's bows, there's hats, there's socks, there's shoes, there's everything, diapers and wipes. The support was unmatched. That's why I love coming here.
We want to be able to come alongside of them and show that we care.
They just showered us with positivity and encouragement, and they gave us the tools to know that we could thrive as parents and that we could bring this baby into the world.
There are no words to describe the kindness, the love, and the care that you receive when you walk into Open Arms Clinic.
They gave us the confidence to know that everything was going to be okay and we were going to figure things out together. And so we're very thankful for Open Arms and all the counseling, all the support that they provided.
This can happen to anyone. You don't have to be lower class or this, it can happen to anyone, and you don't have to be homeless. You can just really be down on your luck, and I am just really thankful that Open Arms was there.
We just listen, take our time to listen to them. Oftentimes they just, I think, feel unheard.
Actually, when I was coming out here to do the interview, I was crying a little bit every time I stepped in here, because I just remember when I walked in here, it was really hard for me, and they really helped me a lot. So I'm very thankful for them. Yeah, I'm just thankful.
People see something different in us, and that's what we want. We pray for that every day, that people will sense that we love them genuinely and we're here to serve them.
Gilma kept calling me to check on me, and she was like, oh, come back. When she sent me the results,
when they see that, there's a big smile on the face, and that is beautiful.
She was following up with me, and really, really nice. And I'm just really really, really thankful for that. That was a tough time. That was a hard time.
Yeah. Just pausing and listening to what their concerns are, and just showing genuine care. I think that is really something that they love.
We want to serve them. They mean the world to us.
We find peace in the Lord. We find peace in that we help them with everything we could.
I'm stronger today because I'm Kiara's mom.
Open Arms helped me with the resources that they provide feel and fulfill my parenting journey.
We are more bonded.
We learn to work as a team.
It was really Open Arms that filled in the hole.
Coming here to you guys, we were able to receive that confidence, and it gave us a lot more peace of mind on what we should look forward to.
It was here that I was able to stand up for myself, learned how to, trust myself.
So funny how full circle how things go.
I didn't have that before her.
Obviously, continuing my pregnancy outweighed not continuing it. It's that easy, you know?
I chose to keep my baby because I knew that's what was going to be the best for me and her. I knew it.
Now that we have our son, we, like you said, we can't imagine what our life would be without him.
Open Arms allowed me to feel like a complete father figure.
We had doubts, we weren't sure where to go.
But now we have that motivation.
Open Arms just, the name fits. Open Arms, it's great. That's how welcome I feel here.
Gets me every time, and I work there. For those of you new to the Open Arms Pregnancy Clinic, allow me to introduce who we are. We are a Christian ministry, and we offer, as you can tell, life-affirming services to women and men who are facing unintended pregnancy and reproductive choices. We do that by offering free pregnancy testing, ultrasound, and pregnancy decision counseling. Our approach is to care for our clients holistically, and what I mean by that is we care for her not just about a pregnancy, but we care about her emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And we really focus on all of those areas so that we can really help her. I mentioned this last year, but I have to repeat it. We have several ladies who come to us who have been to a large chain abortion provider in our valley, who were told that they would not get an ultrasound unless and until they pay for their abortion and they're on the table for the procedure. At Open Arms, we believe that knowledge is power. We believe that anyone considering the option of abortion deserves to have the facts. She deserves to understand the development of her baby. She deserves to understand the procedures that she might undergo. The ultrasound, along with the pregnancy decision counseling, is hugely impactful in a patient's decision as she's really wrestling with that decision. That's what we specialize in, and I think that's what we do very well. Once we've provided the pregnancy test, the ultrasound, the decision counseling, we've walked her through that process. We then invite her to participate in classes. We offer pregnancy classes, parenting classes, relationship classes. Our hope is to have a healthy mom, a healthy baby, healthy relationships. And anyone who participates in our classes, we invite them to take things from our baby closet for free. You saw it up on it. She said diapers and bows and ribbons and shoes, all that. So we have a beautiful baby closet. We're also very unique as a pregnancy clinic because we're one of the few that I know of that provides service to men. Statistics show that about 80% of women who are choosing or considering abortion will choose life for their baby if their partner will verbalize support for that life. So at Open Arms, we're not just pro-mother. we are also pro-father. And I want to thank the men in the room. Happy Father's Day. That amen was from Alex, our men's program coordinator. Love you, Alex. During COVID, we remained open. If abortion clinics were deemed as essential businesses, then by golly, so are we, right? It was a challenging time, I'm not going to lie. We could not find disinfectant, gloves, masks, thermometers, and as a pregnancy clinic, a very important supply, toilet paper. Oh, sure, you laugh, but let me tell you. Our clients' stories were hard, as you can imagine, during COVID. There for a while, almost every client we saw was strongly considering terminating the pregnancy. But our team did what our team does best. They listened, they loved, they educated, they presented solutions to problems, alternatives, and they shared the love of Christ with each and every one. I wish I could tell you that all of them chose life, but that's not real, right? And I'm going to be real with you. We grieved those we lost. Some of our staff lost sleep, wondering, what could I have said better? What could I have done differently? We'd remind each other that the decision is hers and hers alone. We're there to love her, to support her, to educate her, to give her our best, and then pray. And that's what they did. That's what we do. Thankfully, we had many victories. Those stories brought a different kind of tear, the good kind that come with goosebumps. It's an unspeakable blessing to help somebody who was considering terminating a life, to help them to make that choice for life, and then to have them call us back later and to thank us and to tell us how grateful they are. You heard it on the video, and how they cannot imagine life without their little one. And in spite of COVID closures, we were actually able to figure out how to continue our classes. We couldn't do them in person anymore, so we brought those online. We wanted to save our in-person visits to those who needed our medical services and our pregnancy counseling. So we did online classes, and for each person who did our online pregnancy class, parenting class, relationship, any of those classes, we offered them bags of baby clothing and diapers, and those were hard to find for a while. So it was really a blessing to be able to help these young moms with very needed supplies. Well, last year was a very big year at Open Arms. We moved. Remember last year I stood in front of you saying we were going to move? Well, we did. And let me tell you, this team did it in 3 business days. We were shut down for 3 days only. It was a Herculean task, but they rose to the challenge, and we had our doors open 3 days later, and I'm so proud. It's a beautiful clinic. We have larger space, and we hope to fill it. We also increased our nursing hours. We have 5 stellar nurses, and we need one more because one of them is leaving us for Tennessee. Tears, real tears. So if we have any RNs or nurse practitioners in the room, we need to talk. But 5 stellar nurses. So we are actually offering more medical appointments now because we're growing our nursing staff. We received a brand new 3D, 4D ultrasound from the Knights of Columbus, which was an amazing gift. We received a grant from Focus on the Family for digital marketing, and they required that we raise the matching funds, and 2 very generous, loyal, wonderful families stepped up in a big way to match those funds from Focus on the Family. So now we are increasing our advertising in a big way, and we're being very intentional, hoping to reach those that really is where we specialize, those facing unintended pregnancy. If we're going to have an impact with our ideal client, a strong online presence is so important. Oh, and speaking of strong online presence, I need to tell you a story. Did you know that the FDA just eliminated restrictions on selling abortion online? And you think about how unreputable so many vendors are out there. And these are, well, Diana, our receptionist, took a call a couple weeks ago from a woman calling on behalf of a friend who had just taken both abortion pills and had, sorry if this is hard to hear after dinner, but she had aborted her baby in the toilet. That is what they tell you to do when you take the abortion pill. This is not uncommon. They tell you to sit on the toilet and pass the tissue. But this woman saw her baby. Can you imagine? She had no idea that that's what was going to happen to her. And she was obviously very emotionally traumatized. This is one I lost sleep over. We didn't even see her. My heart breaks for her, whoever she is. This woman called us hoping that we could refer her to somewhere that would give this baby a burial. And this is a woman who was trying to terminate the life of the pregnancy. And she did, but not realizing that this was, in fact, a baby. So we did a quick Google search. Never been asked this question before. Typed in what to do with a baby aborted in the toilet. First thing that came up, let me read it to you. If you have an abortion before 9 weeks of pregnancy, you will usually have it at home. How wonderful. You can decide how to dispose of the remains. They can be flushed down the toilet or wrapped in tissue and disposed of as you wish. We need to reach people before this happens. Am I right? So we are advertising very heavily. Our phones are ringing more. It's great. Our schedule is mostly full. And our objective this year is to see that grow. We want to fill all 3 of those beautiful exam rooms. I want to keep those nurses super busy. But in order to accommodate more clients, we need more staff hours, we need more supplies, we need more materials. Here's a challenge. When businesses grow, the more customers they see, the more profits they get. With open arms, the more clients we see, the more our expenses grow, right? One other thing I want to share with you, and don't hold me to this, okay? This is just between you and me, okay? We are strongly considering beginning to offer the abortion pill reversal. If you've never heard of that, what that means is a woman who's taken the first of the abortion pills and then regrets it. And it happens all the time. If she acts quickly enough, a doctor can administer a high level of progesterone, which will enable her body to retain that pregnancy. It's not 100% successful, but there's great success happening with that. And our medical director is doing a lot of research on this topic right now, and I gotta tell you, we're all very excited and hopeful about it, so you can help us pray. But maybe next year at the banquet, I'll be able to announce that we have, in fact, begun offering that, so I'm excited. Tonight, we're gonna ask you to give generously. We all know why we're here, right? Yeah, we're here to see Charlie. Okay, he's coming. We're going to ask you tonight to invest generously, and I just want to ask you to be praying about it. Our goal tonight is to raise $125,000 for this life-saving work. Please be prayerfully considering this as we have our program tonight. There's a few other needs that are mentioned in your program, so please do make sure you look at the program. And before we bring Charlie up, I want to introduce somebody to you who I've gotten to know a little bit lately. Her name is Laura. Now, do you remember in the video, or earlier in my speech, I was saying that there's one of the greatest joys that we get as a pregnancy clinic is when somebody calls us and says, hey, I'm just so super glad that I saw you guys, I found you guys, you helped me, and my baby's alive, and I don't have any idea what I would do without this one. Well, this one is Laura. Laura is one of those clients, and she's making her way up to the front right now. She called us expressing such gratitude that we had to bring her up. So I want you to hear what your support does to help girls like Laura. So Laura is joined by her beautiful daughter, Leah, and Leah is being held by Michelle, who is our Life Essentials facilitator. So please welcome Laura.
First, I want to say I am so honored to be here. It is just overwhelming, and I really, really appreciate being asked to speak tonight. It is such an honor to speak with you all. This is my daughter, Leia, if you didn't guess. And she got a little tired, I think, of saying hello to everyone and conked out. So here we are. So Debbie, I'm going to go off script just a little bit. Don't worry, I won't stray too far. I realized I was timing myself and I went way over 7 minutes. So I'm going to summarize. And I also like to make eye contact. So the script is here, but I'm looking at all of you. So it was not an easy pregnancy. I found out I was pregnant the day that schools were closing for LAUSD, March 13th, 2020. It's a Friday the 13th. Very scary day for me. Everything was coming to an end. It felt like the world was ending. COVID was spiking worldwide, and everyone was panicking. Things were shutting down, schools included. We had no idea how to teach our students. I'm a high school teacher at Canoga Park High School. And there was this permeating dread in the air. And I recall that as I got the call from Kaiser that I indeed was pregnant. And I am 49 years old. I know, thank you, I don't look it. Yay. She woke up. Exercise. I teach dance, so I attribute it to that. But I was terrified for a number of reasons. My father passed when I was young. My mother had just recently passed. And I'm the baby of the family of 3. My sister had found out that she was not getting her share of the inheritance for numerous reasons and basically told me to go to hell. She was my closest sort of companion. And my brother and I became very distant due to political views that did not mesh. And so I felt very alone. My partner of 20 years made it clear to me he wanted one child, which we already had. She's 7 and beautiful, but that he did not want another. Hi, baby. This is why I go off script. She's kind of a deal breaker in terms of any order, but I am keeping track of time. So she was not expected, to say the least. I didn't think a woman could get pregnant at 49. And my partner was not at all happy. He basically panicked himself. Oh. Happy baby. There she is. Hi. Yeah. So he told me that if I did not terminate the pregnancy, that he was leaving. And after the passing of my mom and the loss of my nuclear family, that felt absolutely, unimaginably horrifying. I'm the baby of the family, and I operate well in a team. And the thought of being alone with 2 children felt like the equivalent of trying to take a kayak to Hawaii. This is what I told my friend Bola, who's back there. So she was a great support to me in this decision as well. But I said, it feels like I'm being asked to go to Hawaii in the middle of a storm on a kayak with a 7-year-old in the back and now another baby in the front. And it felt utterly unthinkable to carry this pregnancy. I attempted termination. I went to a clinic. It was daily pressure from my partner. When are you going to terminate? When are you going to terminate? And if you don't terminate, I'm leaving. So tell me when that day is and I will be gone. So I tried, not willingly, but I felt like I had no choice. I felt like I was losing the only family I knew. So the doctor at the clinic told me that he could not perform the procedure. The placenta was growing too close to my C-section scar, so he wanted me to go to another facility. And at that point, Kaiser did the ultrasound and a very high definition screen, and I saw everything, and I couldn't do it. I didn't tell my partner that. I kind of played, thank you. I tried to play it safe and tell him I was still thinking and praying about it, but I had already made the decision that I could not do it. And that was drama when he found out. There was a lot of fighting. But that being said, the grace that I found in my friends, in my pastors, and by the way, Jeff Fisher is here, and Lisa, thank you. She heard she received many a call from me, crying and not knowing what to do. And she and Jeff pointed me to Open Arms. And when I got to Open Arms that day, my mind had made up its mind. I had to terminate. Logically, there was no other conclusion. I didn't have financial means to pull this off. I was about to be abandoned by my lifetime partner. I had no nuclear family, no support whatsoever that I could think of. And I walked in there, and Avery, God bless her, I gave her a real run for her money. I was obstinate, challenging. Everything she told me, I would turn on its head and challenge her. She would affirm to me that there were other options, and I went through a mental list of why adoption was not an option, why saving the baby and having the baby was not an option. And in the end, I walked out feeling embraced regardless, which was huge to me. And yeah, you tell them, Leia. You tell them. I think I should just let her speak. I think she has a lot more to say that you want to hear. Through the course of the next, I think I was 5 months pregnant at the time. So through the course of the next 4 months, it just became clear to me that I had to have this lovely little girl that you see here. And I can't imagine life without her. Yes. She is the joy of our family. My partner did not leave after all. He fell in love with her. But there by the grace of God go I, because I was this close to making that choice that I knew and know now that I would not be able to live with myself had I made that choice. And I just want to say the grace was the turning point for me. Knowing that I had the choice, but being reminded of God's unlimited resources. Because when you're panicking, you forget these things. You forget that there are options that don't rely on you. And I was reminded not to panic and make a decision out of fear, but to make that decision out of love. And I am so glad that I had a multitude carrying me through that time. And the multitude, Open Arms, is one of the many that supported me throughout this pregnancy. I have closing words, because I know I'm at 7:41. Oh my gosh, I have to stop at 8. These are words not written by me, but they are written by an artist that I deeply miss, Rich Mullins. He passed many years ago, but he says, "There's a joy in your sweet abandon, like the cowgirl ballerina leaves that ride, the wild and holy bucking wind that the sky sent through you to blow away these walls I've built, walls of selfishness and walls of guilt, and leave me free to be a child." Oh, Leah, you are such a joy and a gift from the Lord. Can't imagine making another choice. Thank you so much.
Drop the mic, right? That's fantastic. Thank you so much. You know, that's not easy to do. So can we just thank her again for those? Thank you. I wanted to read something that she texted to me earlier, if that's okay, and then I'm going to bring Charlie up. She said that the freedom to speak freely about this with your counseling staff also helped me to my final decision. But if I had felt forced into keeping the baby and felt judged in the process, this most likely would have backfired and caused me to panic into making the wrong choice. In the end, it was the overwhelming grace that I experienced from both Open Arms and friends that helped me. And she said, this grace is the trademark of Open Arms and how they embrace women going through this terrible dilemma. I thought that was beautifully said. So Laura, thank you for your bravery. Thank you for sharing that story with us tonight. And now I want to bring up Charlie. I'm so grateful that he has accepted our invitation. This is one busy guy. I think you do over 300 events in a year. The fact that he accepted us is one. His bio, he probably doesn't need a bio. We all know him. That's why we're here. But let me just tell you, he has such a passion for pro-life work. This man is one of the most articulate speakers out there right now, and I am just so thrilled to be able to welcome Charlie Kirk to our stage.
Guys. Thank you. It is great to be here tonight, and quite an honor. I do speak a lot across the country, and we get a lot of people that kind of want us to travel, and I always try to do pregnancy crisis centers. I think they're so important. I think they do such incredible, unique work, and quite honestly, from a purely selfish standpoint, I just love coming to these because I just feel better about life, and I'm like, this is like the most beautiful thing I've seen in the last year. Is that not? Like all these people that are so happy to have children, and we need more of that in our country and less of whatever they're putting on television. So thank you for that. That just lifted me up. And so I just want to reiterate this. This is a wonderful organization, and I am going to, at the end of this, ask for you to support this organization because the fight for life is the most important fight that we're involved in. And I'm going to talk about the work that I do on high school and college campuses where a lot of this kind of intersects. But I just want to reiterate, the entire team here at Open Arms Pregnancy Crisis Center is so important because the whole team, they're dedicating themselves to this. And you see the budget of this center. A lot of the people that work for these centers, they very well could go work for a different hospital institution, but they make a choice to go work in an arena that literally saves lives at the moment where it's needed. So I just want to give a round of applause for the team of Open Arms Pregnancy. That's so important. And Debbie, you're doing a wonderful job. So, and I really mean that. It's a very difficult job to do, especially under all these circumstances. So we were supposed to do this in May, and I want to thank all of you for rescheduling. Now, I had a very good excuse. In my defense, would you agree? Was that a good excuse? So I try not to pull rank, but I contacted Debbie. I said, look, I'm getting married in early May. Is there any way that we could reschedule this? And you guys were so understanding. So thank you for that. And my wife is actually, she just came in. So Erica, please stand up. And we've been married 6 weeks now. So. And so thank you for allowing us to reschedule this and for obviously important reasons. There was one event that we actually had to move. I was telling the story at dinner. They were like, is there any way you could come a couple days after? I said, look, I'm not going to be like overly a jerk here. I'm not speaking at your event. I'm getting married. I'm going on a honeymoon. I'll pay you. Okay, how about this? I'll pay you not to come speak, and we got it figured out. You guys were so wonderful and full of grace, so thank you. I never had to do that before where I was just kind of like, I'm drawing the line here. I think marriage is probably a good line to draw for that. And so what is life? That's an important question. Well, life is a gift. It's given to us by the theme of this dinner tonight from our Creator. We are made in His image. And we talk a lot about the need to protect life, but we also have to talk about a culture of life. And tonight, I think it's really important for us to understand that all of us here, when we protect life and we talk about the need to fight for those that can't fight for themselves, is we're really trying to articulate that there is a transcendent order. That if you do not believe that these beautiful children that you've seen are worthy of protection, then you're really engaging in a theological debate without ever actually admitting it. And this is what happens on our college campuses and our high schools every single day. We are in the midst of a theological debate right now in our country. And the theological debate is very simple. I don't mean eschatology versus Arminianist. I'm not getting into any of that. Here's what I mean. All of us here tonight generally believe in two things. That there is a God and you are not Him. That's a general agreement. Well, can I get a round of applause for that, everyone? That's generally what we believe here, right? Now, this is, if I say this on a college campus, it's largely considered heresy. The first one was like, who are you to say that there's a creator? And I have fun with atheists a lot. I think that we have to have more fun generally. I think that we have great ideas, but we have to be less mean and angry. I need to take my own advice sometimes, by the way. Let me just be very clear. There's no such thing. Everyone knows that sometimes you have to take sometimes the advice you give, including to your children and people around you. And so I have fun with atheists, and I start with, and people come up to me, and by the way, atheism is a religion. I think we have to be more clear about this. Not every Christian agrees with me when I say this, but they have a code of beliefs. They try to proselytize non-believers. They are fervent about their belief in nothingness, and they organize themselves all the time to try to get people to their side. And so one of the first things I always try to say to people that have committed their life to believe in nothing is that, well, without God, there would be no atheists. And that one just really, what are you talking about? No! And no, of course, there's nothing, and therefore nothing came out of nothing. Okay, well, really, that's interesting. That one really bothers them, right? And my favorite thing to talk about with atheists is really the motivation, right? Is the willingness to be open-minded. Do you hope you're wrong? That's the most important question you can ask someone who has decided to believe in nothing. Now, let me be very clear. There's a difference between agnostics and atheists, right? People that are agnostic, it comes from a Greek word, without knowledge or searching or trying to find the truth. I have a lot of respect and empathy for agnostics. I do. People that are trying to figure this whole thing out. An atheist is something completely different. An atheist is someone that is saying, I figured it all out at age 19 because I took intro to metaphysics and there's nothing. That's basically I got it all figured out because I go to UCLA and I'm the smartest person in the world. Okay, got it. Thank you. And so, and it's kind of interesting. Again, there's no age limit on wisdom. I've met plenty of people that are very old without wisdom and plenty of young people that have wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge of things that never change, right? So let's just make sure we define wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge of things that are eternal. It is the knowledge in the divine. It is the knowledge in how human beings act. For example, a human life is worthy of protection 2,000 years ago, a human life is worthy of protection now, and a human life will be worthy of protection 2,000 years from now. That is an eternal truth. That does not change just because we have Twitter, right? It does not change just because we have airplanes. The idea of the mechanics of our society does not change our morality. College does not teach you this. College teaches you that we're in this postmodern moment. And because we've made all these advances in science, yeah, okay, we can talk about that. That's not what I'm here to talk about tonight, but it's John Stewart said it best. Thank goodness we had science to get us through the last year because science created all of this. It came from a laboratory. John Stewart said it. Probably one of the greatest bits of late night television I've seen in quite some time. But there's this idea in morals and ethics that we've progressed so much that the truths of the Bible no longer apply. That look at us, we have airplanes. Why do we read Proverbs anymore? It's true. No, that's basically part of what college morality teaches you, is that we have advanced so far as a species. And kind of our job, those of us that believe in eternal truths, the things that do not change, is kind of to slow down and say, hold on a second. We're just as broken and in need of a savior today as human beings were 1,500 years ago or 2,000 years ago. That human beings are just as desiring for power, just as treacherous, just as deceitful. And that's a really important argument to engage in. Because if you all of a sudden say that somehow modernity is making human beings so much better, now don't get me wrong, some of our circumstances have improved, of course. But that doesn't mean our human nature has improved. There's a difference between the framework, our laws, and our circumstances, and actually who we are. And so we were made in the image of God, and then there was a fall, a separation. Sin is the separation from God, and we have a tendency to keep on wanting to separate from God. And the story of the first 11 books of Genesis is kind of how do we reconcile with this? What do we try to do? Well, first, with incredible jealousy and with vengeful anger, we go and kill our brother. It's like that's pretty awful. We lie to our spouse, and we try to create a structure in Genesis 11 to challenge God himself, the Tower of Babel. We know how God responds to that. So we see in the first 11 books of the Bible kind of this sinful nature replicate itself in a variety of different ways. And then kind of after Genesis 11, the story of the Bible actually begins in the sense of like the history of the Bible. I'm not to say that Noah was not history, but where we actually have like Abraham and the lineage on down from there. And then the story replicates itself in the same similar way, which is God gives you a promise. They temporarily honor it. We think we're smarter, right? We think we're not God, or we think we are God, or we think we can do whatever we want to do. And then we go into kind of this cycle of abandonment. God dishonors that. We go into chaos, and then we have to retreat back to God. That sounds like Tuesday, right? That sounds like every single day. And it's true. And then eventually God gave us this gift that we did not earn, we cannot pay for, that there's nothing that is this thing called irresistible grace, amazing grace, which is his son. And we have this through, and if there's any non-believers here tonight, thank you for coming, by the way. I mean that. No, there are some people that I was told that were here that have not yet found Christ. I'm really glad you're here because I want you to hear this truth. And if you ever find anything better than Jesus Christ, I'll give you my cell phone number, seriously. Because there is nothing better than Jesus Christ in this entire world. Please go find it. And we have 4 Gospels written by 4 different people that never contradict themselves. With even the idea of archaeological texts, it is the most verifiable, reinforced from a purely historical standpoint idea of what we can prove. There's never been archaeological discovery that has disproven the truth of the Bible. We believe that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle wrote what they wrote, yet we have 1,000 times more archaeological and literature evidence to reinforce the truth of the Bible. There was a pool of Siloam. There was Herod's Gate. You could go there, you could touch it, you could see it, you could walk through it. And yes, Jesus Christ was a real person who turned water into wine, who actually manifested himself to be amongst one of us, to be a human being, lived a perfect life, resisted the temptation of Satan, taught us how to live, literally rose the dead, and then was tried, tried, and crucified for something he didn't do, died, and then rose again. And that was the fulfillment of something we don't deserve, which is eventually eternal life if you accept him into your life. Now, this is the truth that we all need to get out. And around that truth is then this idea of a call for us that are Christians to try to contest for that truth in every single arena. And that's why we're all here tonight. And so I'm always struck by the people, and I'm not to say that you can't be an atheist and also run a pregnancy crisis center. But I am struck that almost every single pregnancy crisis center is run by Christians. And I have a whole nother shtick on like big families. I'm still looking for an atheist family with 8 children. If you know one, please find. No, seriously, it's like an open offer. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Please, I want to find this family. Like every major family, like they're Mormon or they're Quaker, or like there's like whatever, they believe in a God. Haven't found the guy that's like, I don't believe in a God, let's go have 7 kids. I wonder why. The same is with pregnancy crisis centers. The law, the truth, I'm sure there's someone out there, but the truth remains firm, which is, why do this? This is hard work. This is really sacrificial work. Why would you do a pregnancy crisis center? And the answer to that question is because you've been given that grace, you've been born new, and now you feel so charged and reborn that you want to go give life to somebody else, even if it's in a little bit of a glimpse, because you've been given life by your Creator. That's why you're here tonight. And that's why the center exists. It's because all of a sudden you were born new, and you're like, I'm willing to do a pay cut, I'm willing to get there at 6 a.m., I'm willing to do the thankless work, I'm willing to get yelled at, whatever, all this stuff, because if I could just save one life, I then can give back to what I've already been given. And that's a beautiful thing, by the way. And that's something bigger than every single one of us. And so I'm going to totally run out of time, by the way. So if you want to hear more of me, I'll literally be on the radio at 10 o'clock tonight on KRLA. We're on the radio locally, podcasting. And please subscribe to the podcast if you want to. So you just yank me off the stage before I do the appeal, which I am going to do. But this is really a question of morality and ethics. And so if there is no transcendent order, if you do not believe that there is something greater than you, then all of a sudden life, and yes, abortion, becomes a utilitarian debate. And this is a very important thing. So I speak on college campuses all across the country, right? I've spoken at over 160 college campuses. I'm the only conservative to speak at UC Berkeley, UCLA, Stanford in one semester and live to tell about it. I've been all across the country, right? I've been from Brown, I've been to Columbia, you name it, I've spoke there. Turning Point USA, we're on thousands of high school and college campuses. We have over 160 full-time staff. I'm hearing what your children are going into debt for, right? I hear what your grandchildren are borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars for. And there is this zeal that exists on these campuses to try to make you into little evangelistic nihilists. It's like, we are going to make you to believe in nothing, and not just nothing, like, you're going to enjoy it, and then you're going to become a revolutionary. And if not, you're a bad person. Shut up, racist. Like, what? Like, okay. You know, like, what if I believe in a creator? Like, then all of a sudden you get into this struggle. And the baseline of all of this, which I think is very, very important, is this question of how important do you actually think you are? And this is something we have done an awful job of in our society. And this is why I think the self-esteem movement was one of the most harmful movements ever propagandized on my generation. We should have a self-control movement, not a self-esteem movement. Let me tell you very much. We need a self-control movement like right now. But it makes sense, though. If you want to turn people into little Neros and into like the 19-year-old equivalent of Caligula, then of course you're going to have them believe they're the most important thing ever. And so I never got the self-esteem movement thing until my friend Dennis Prager explained it to me. By the way, God bless Dennis Prager. Love that guy. And it was so I was in high school, and it never made sense to me. There's these massive posters, right? You're perfect the way you are. And I understand the intention, right? They were trying to stop bullying. They were trying to stop self-harm. It had the opposite impact, actually. It had the absolute opposite. You're perfect the way you are. Everything's great. And I remember asking my teacher once, because we had self-esteem hour, once a month, right? No, it's true. It's like, you're so perfect. You're so great. Like, look up to the skies and whatever, the stars, whatever. And so it's like some sort of strange pagan, pseudo-religious ceremony. And I remember asking once, just sort of irritable, if I'm perfect the way I am, why am I in school? Right? That's sort of an interesting question, right? And she was like, no, shut up, whatever. She didn't really think it that through, right? It's like, no, I'm not really that interested in that. And that's actually really important, though, because what education should be is a challenge. What education should be is to tease, especially men. I want to just commend the man that runs the men's ministry. I heard a deep, bellowing voice. You're doing awesome work. Awesome. Because strong men are so important in this conversation. I'm going to get back to that in a second. And because a challenge is something that deep down, every young man desires. And we've removed that, and instead we've created this entire, young men and women, but men especially, really, really yearn for a challenge, and they desire pressure, and they desire to be pushed. We put this society where it's like, you're perfect the way you are unless you're a man, and then you must apologize for your entire life. You must apologize for it your entire life. And so, but it really struck me, how important do you actually think you are? Well, if education was actually working properly, you would think you're not very important, you're not very wise, but you want to do everything you possibly can to try to figure out about the God that put you here. And you are thankful that you even have breath in your lungs, and you desire to understand beauty at all costs. That's what education used to be. Education used to be teasing an 18-year-old. Welcome to college. You ask the 18-year-old, who's super smart, high IQ, think they know the whole world. What is beauty? What is goodness? What is truth? And they think that, come with us. We're going to find out together. That's the way education used to work. It used to work in college. It's like, we're going to break you down almost to the point where you can't take it anymore, and you're going to rise up with stronger metaphorical muscles, and you will have a stronger character because of it. Now college and education is the exact opposite. Now you walk in when you're 18, and they're like, there is no beauty, there is no goodness, there is no truth, there is no God, and I'm going to tell you the one thing you can do about it, which is become kind of like a pseudo-revolutionary. And you're really important, even though there's nothing, because that's all you know. Right? When you think about it, when there is no God, what becomes the ultimate guiding principle? Your consciousness. It's the obvious deduction when you don't believe there's anything above you. And then that explains exactly how we are able to morally justify a lot of the things that happen. Because then abortion and life becomes a utilitarian debate, which is like, no, what's best for me? I'm not ready. And I just want to say what this Pregnancy Crisis Center does is it solves the problem of what I consider to be the greatest criticism of the pro-life movement. And we talked about this on the phone, which is the pro-life movement has to do a much better job of having grace and compassion, healing and openness for women that are pregnant or have had abortions, and not make them the target of your virtue signaling or your condemnation. We are all sinners. If a woman had an abortion, they deserve grace that only Christ can provide. If you're looking for someone to exhaust your frustration, go after the abortionists or the professional abortion incorporated lobby, not the women that were lied to or propagandized in those clinics. I encourage you to do that. And so, this is the real debate that's happening here. And I think that it's actually a debate that we are going to win. And so I want to encourage you that those of us that care about life and we believe every single life is worthy and deserving of protection, I want you tonight to dismiss one thing that I know all of you have had come across your radar screen, and that is cynicism. Things can't change. The abortion lobby, they get pills on demand. We're going to do all we can, but I don't think we can think transformationally. I want to encourage you that we have to think bigger than ever. I want to encourage you that we can actually turn the corner on this, big time. And I believe that the biggest issue, and you saw it in this video, the biggest issue was not the question of whether or not we have the truth. We know that. The question is whether or not can we get a pregnant mother to look at an ultrasound screen. That's a mechanical issue when you think about it. It's not like we need to find a better truth. No, we have the truth. The barrier is whether or not a mother is actually understanding the full facts and knowledge around that very specific decision. And so when we talk about this issue and actually building a culture of life and some of the arguments that are made, I'm going to tell you one thing that I think is a couple things that are super important. And we all know the statistics, and Seth Gruber here does an amazing job. He's a great friend of mine, one of the best pro-life speakers out there. And I always text him. He knows all the numbers so well. 8 weeks, a baby can feel pain. At 21 to 23 days, a heartbeat begins. And 6 weeks is when I think it becomes detectable in some ways on an ultrasound. And then you go through all the numbers. It's pretty amazing. But even beyond that, we ask ourselves the question, when does life begin? Or we ask somebody else. And we're winning on that. So I want to encourage you to continue to ask that question. That is a winning question. When does life begin? And it begins at conception. But that only wins if you're able to then win the moral argument. And let me prove it to you. There's a dialogue I had with a pro-abortion activist in Washington, D.C. That went very viral, had 20 million views. And I asked her, I said, and I didn't even know I was being filmed. Someone just came up to me. I was just super curious. And it was really calm. And it was really respectful. I said, when does life begin? She said, oh, it begins at conception. I said, then how are you a pro-abortion activist? And I was introduced to their next argument, and get ready for this. Well, she said, well, no, we need population control, and like we have too many people and too many children, it's bad for the environment, and we don't need unwanted people. And so I'm making the moral argument not to have that person exist. So don't assume just because you can win people over that that's a human being, that that is actually going to be applicable in this kind of new morality that we live in. And so it all comes back to this idea of who are you and why are you here and in whose image are you made? And that really is a theological debate. It comes back to ultimate purpose. And that's what I love about the center, is that it actually brings people to that type of ultimate purpose and salvation. Because if we look at this myopically, I don't think we're going to win. If we look at this broadly and transformationally, we know we have the truth. We see people's lives changed. And we also know, and this is a very, very important point, that when people are actually able to see the entire complexity of the argument, their life is never the same. Do you notice that we have nothing to hide as pro-lifers, and they are always hiding something? Do you notice that? That's how you know you're on the right side of the argument. You know you're on the right side of the argument where you're like, I'll show you all my materials, I'll let you tour my facility, interview my staff, audit my uncle. Like, what else do you need me to do, right? Whereas, like, the Planned Parenthood, it's like one-way glass, like, you're not allowed within 50 feet, no total anonymity. What's done in darkness will eventually come to light. And the deeds of darkness, and that what that is done has to be done behind a protection of a one-way glass and the total anonymity. That's how you know what they're doing is not right. And so the question is, how do we shine more of a light on the goodness and the truth of all that? And here's the beginning. There's two calls to action, which include supporting this center. We have to think way bigger as pro-lifers. We're thinking way too small. And what do I mean by that? We have to think of like, how many of you remember when there was a culture of smoking in this country? Right? And we kind of like laugh at it, and it's kind of stigmatized. We could do the same thing with abortion. We can have a culture of life where all of a sudden there's no smoking signs everywhere. And we do it with grace and compassion and mercy and love, where people think it's unthinkable to actually have an abortion. That would be an amazing win. And how did that happen? Happened through mass media, private conversations, telling the truth, being unafraid to engage on the civic and the law side, which I'm going to get to in a second, because sometimes pro-lifers don't want to get involved in the laws of things. But we have to wherever we possibly can. And that's an idea of something that actually changed. Seatbelt laws is another example. You might not like them. It was a change. People used to ride around on the back of pickup trucks. Is that a thing? Someone used to do that? Yeah, everyone's laughing. They're like, oh, yeah, I did that. It's perfectly safe. And we had a camel, too. It's like, hey, it's great. Like, yeah, America used to be, I love this. It's so much fun. It's like, America used to be so free. I'm like, tell me why. And like, of course they're right, but the example is like, we used to ride around on the back of a pickup truck with a 12 gauge and a camel. I'm like, really? That's totally free. Yeah, it's terrific. Sounds fun. Now we're like wearing masks when we shower. Like, oh yeah, we're like, oh my gosh. Way too much in the other direction. So the point, as I digress, the point is we could think big, everybody. Things can change. They could change for the worse. They can change for the better. That is determined on us. Are we going to vision cast? It says in Proverbs, without a vision, the people perish. So what's the vision? The vision for this center is to save more babies. I'm going to list out the numbers for this center. It's a really amazing thing. 866 clients served. That's a lot of people in this valley. 1,447 appointments kept. 539 pregnancy tests. 393 ultrasound exams. 230 male partner sessions. Awesome. I love hearing about that. That's so important. 664 gospel and faith conversations. 664 people heard the gospel. Face-to-face. 642 pregnancy parenting classes and 429 baby closet visits. The annual budget, $660,000 a year. The $660,000 a year, that's like the white wine budget at Planned Parenthood every month. It is. And by the way, they drink white wine while they're doing some things that David Daleiden caught on camera. And please keep David Daleiden in your prayers, by the way. David Daleiden caught on camera the incredible criminal enterprise that existed in this state of the aborting of children, the selling of their baby parts for cash. Those videos have been wiped from the internet. Kamala Harris raided his apartment. He's been criminalized and somewhat forgotten in certain circles. I'm not going to forget David Daleiden. I'm going to use my platform to try to reinforce him and support him and pray for him. That man is a hero. And so that's one example of thinking big and doing what we need to do. And the last thing I'll say is this. Well, I kind of do a pastor's close, so it's like 45-minute close. So it's like the close, it's like the speech. So like, forgive me. So it's like we're kind of like going around. We're kind of doing like a big approach, right? Is that all of you have to be individual ambassadors for life. What do I mean by that? Is that we're only going to change things when you have the courage and the confidence and the clarity of thought to be willing not just to post a tweet, not just give money to this, but sit around the table with your relatives and your cousins and have that tough conversation. I'll give you one great example of a conversation starter. And it was from an 8-year-old at the March for Life. Anyone been at the March for Life before? It's one of the coolest things ever. I love it because it's the true definition of spontaneous order. It is the most disorganized thing I've ever been to in my entire life. Seriously. No one is in charge, yet everyone knows kind of what's happening. It's awesome. And it's like you have to like block off a whole week, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like people come from out of the hills and the rivers and the valleys, and you're like, who's that person? It's like out of control, right? And so literally like 700,000 young people descend on Washington, D.C. for the March for Life every single year. And from every single denomination imaginable, all saying that we need to fight for life. And it's beautiful. And this one girl was just kind of on the side of the corner, and I just kind of like to look at little nuggets of wisdom. My wife and I call these God winks when the Lord speaks through kind of unusual vessels. And there was this 8-year-old that had this sign, and I saw every single sign imaginable, right? Like choose life and like all the kind of generic ones. But it was so obvious this 8-year-old made her sign herself because everything was misspelled. It was like backward S and like whatever, right? And but I was like, this is amazing. And so I went up to her, I said, who made this sign? And she said, it just came to me one day in science class, and it said, if it's not your DNA, it's not your choice. I was like, that is the greatest, that is so wise. And really what it comes down to is, yes, who are you? If you come down to its fundamental level, to the mapping of the human genome, you are a bunch of deoxyribonucleic acid. And if it's not your deoxyribonucleic acid, it's not your choice. And I was like, that's so smart. And so I've obviously used it a lot since, and I didn't give attribution to the random 8-year-old at March for Life from 2 years ago. Whoever you are, I hope you become a US Senator or something because you're super smart. And that's why we must choose life. We're just barely touching the surface of the combined wisdom of this entire country and planet, by the way, because of how many, God forbid, people that we have unfortunately discarded. The point is that we need better arguments. And we need to be unafraid to be at the table to make those kind of arguments and ask questions in the pursuit of truth. So what I'm really saying is that this is no longer a spectator sport. And so when I ask you to support this center tonight, you need to do that generously. But then you have to say, hey, who in my life, in my circle, am I bringing to go see the pro-life cause correctly? Because I can tell you that's what they're doing on their side. They're doing everything they possibly can to do pamphlets and leaflets. They're well-funded by taxpayer dollars. They get $500 million a year of federal taxpayer dollars go for Planned Parenthood's overhead. That's just for their overhead budget. Not to mention the small dollar donations they get, the celebrity donations, the massive foundations. They got more money than they know what to do with. And then there's all the other different ones that they incorporate around that. And so that's the call to action for all of us. And so let's vision cast. In 20 years from now, when I'm 47, not 27, are we going to have a culture where we have less abortions and we have laws that reflect God's eternal truth? Or are we going to keep on doing the we gottas? I don't like the we gottas. I started Turning Point USA because I got so tired of the we gottas. We got to do this. We got to reach young people. I don't like the we gottas. This center is not a we gotta center. This center is we are center. And every single one of you are part of that. And this is I'm going to tell you the thing that bothers me the most that I hear. When people say, hey, Charlie, how's it going out there? It's like, what am I, like a running back for the Los Angeles Rams or something? Like, what do you mean out there? Like, kind of in the world of trying to change minds and fighting for what's right and good in the world. I say, wait, hold on. I didn't go to college. There's nothing special about what I do except that I decided to try to do it, and I got really lucky, and the Lord blessed me along the way, and I have some incredible people that have tried to support me. Every single person can do this. Every single person. It is, and in a different variety of ways. It's not for everyone to go up and speak and do all this, but for some people it might be, man, I feel really called to do 10% more in that area. Maybe it's becoming a sidewalk counselor, which I got a crash course in tonight, and I can't remember your name. Saved a life in the last 48 hours of a woman that was going to an abortion clinic in just the last 2 days. How amazing is that? That's being pro-life in the entire culture, right? And these things have momentum. And I have really good news to share. This is the most pro-life generation in American history. Every single number shows it. And when confronted with the facts, it all of a sudden goes down from like 40% pro-abortion to like 20% pro-abortion. It collapses. And so it's a matter of getting those ideas out there and getting that truth out there. And that's where all of you come in more ways than one. And so the question that people ask all the time, and this is where I really want you to pray and think about supporting this center tonight, is what can I do and what is the moral action? Because we had a little bit of a discussion about morality tonight, right? There are 3 types of people in a fight for good things. The first type of people, they do nothing. They sit at home and maybe, and I love this guy, so don't type it, they watch Tucker Carlson and they buy a pillow and they think they're saving Western civilization, okay? And by the way, if that is you, and I love Mike Lindell, great guy. By the way, if every single one of you had passion for life like Mike Lindell has for pillows, abortion would be over like tomorrow, okay? Like that guy has more passion than I've ever seen about anything. Promo code Kirk, by the way, if you guys do that at mypillow.com. So that's the first type of person, right? God bless you if that's you, okay? The second type of person is the fighter. It's the Seth Grubers, right? It's the Debbies. It's the people that are like, I gotta be in the arena. Maybe that isn't you. Then the third type of person is just equally morally important, is the person that helps the fighters. Is the person that are like, you know, Charlie, I'm going to be there invisibly behind you to resupply anything you need. I'm going to be the person that underwrites the next ultrasound machine. I'm going to be the person that makes sure they can hire that next nurse. I'm going to be the person that makes sure they can get the reverse abortion pill. That's my call. Or maybe my call is I have a skill in law or a skill in accounting. But whatever it is, I'm going to be the person that helps the person that does that. And they're equally morally as important. And so all of you guys have cards on your table. And there's a very specific way we're going to do this. And I want to invite the pianist to come up. Okay, in the envelope, yes. And so I want every single person here to please first, this is very important, to fill out your name and your address, all that information, and then to please consider making a gift. On the left side is a one-time gift, and I want you all to consider doing that tonight. And you've seen the transformational work that this center is doing and how it's really changing lives. But the second side is something that is becoming a permanent partner. And I'm going to personally become a monthly supporter of this organization, and because it's such an important thing that's happening. And so you guys should too. And so if every single person in this room gave $25 a month, that would fund $12,500 of the monthly overhead of what this center is doing. And I know there's been a lot of difficulty in the last year. I know some people have done very, very well, and there's been a variety of circumstances. But this sort of partnership for becoming a monthly partner is saving lives and is living out the pro-life movement. So I want to invite the musician to come on up, and we're going to take a moment just to fill out these cards and to pray about this and how you might be able to support this center, and then we'll do a close. So.
want to thank everybody for being here tonight and give you some instructions with all those envelopes that you're holding in your hands before I bring Charlie back up. He's going to bring us home tonight, but, well, I guess not literally. Close us out tonight. That's what I mean, yeah. So I wanted to thank you so much for all your support. Open Arms does what we do on a very shoestring budget. We were just talking about that at my table. We try really hard to be really good stewards of the money that you invest in us so that we can serve people like Laura and the couples you saw on the screen tonight. So I know some of you can give only a little, but others of you have the capacity to really give generously, very generously. And we see it there every day. And I thank God when I get emails from the support, because I get emails each time. I just thank God for you. We couldn't do what we do without you. And Charlie, you said it, nail on the head. It's exactly right. So I want to thank you so much for giving so generously tonight. I hope you were able to consider a one-time significant donation. That is what infuses the ministry. And then the monthly gift sustains us. So, and it's so nice if we don't have to worry about income, that we can do what we do best, and that is representing you in the session room. I wish you could experience that. And you can. Join us. Come for a tour. We have a volunteer training coming up in September. If your heart is being tugged to get in the session room, call us and we'll put you on the list and you can get into that training. We do urgently need another stellar nurse. Only stellar nurses can apply at Open Arms. We need a radiologist, somebody who'd be willing to read a couple scans every day for us. We're really needing that. We've had a radiologist doing this for 20 years, and he's ready for a break. So if you know anybody who might be willing to help with something like that. We also need pro-life OBGYNs, doctors who don't refer for abortion, so that we can, with confidence, refer our patients to those doctors. So if you know anybody, please write that on the back of your response card. So by now, you're probably done with those cards, and you have a little envelope. If I could ask you, there's one envelope on the table with the table number on it. So if one person could grab that envelope, pass it around the table, and you can all put your smaller, your individual envelopes in there. In a moment, I'm going to ask all the staff and all the board to stand, but just in a moment. And what they're going to do is they're going to walk around the room and collect those as Charlie is closing us out. So if you're all ready, I'd like to first ask the staff to please stand. The staff of Open Arms. Please. Stay standing. They're dying right now. I just want you to know. Please stay standing, staff. I know. I see you dying over there. Please stand up. I want you all to know you are the heroes of Open Arms. I get to stand here and see all these lovely faces, but you guys are the heroes. And I love you with all of my heart. And I'm so grateful to serve with such great people. Thank you. Stay standing. Now, if I'd have the board stand with them, please. And the board is really, I hear nightmare stories of boards of directors. Our board serves with such wisdom and unity, godly character, and love for our staff. That's why it works. So I'm going to ask you all to just circulate. If each table would hold up the one table envelope with everything inside, we'll collect those. If it's not ready, just hang it out, hold it up when it is, okay? And we'll make sure we collect all of those. Thank you all. I'm going to bring in Charlie. He's going to say a few closing comments. Thank you all for being here. God bless you guys. Here's Charlie.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for doing that. I have a couple closing thoughts and remarks here. The first is I want to invite anyone here who has not accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior to do so. I'm not going to do an altar call or a raising of the hands. There's nothing more important than getting in contact and being born anew by a Creator that loves you and you're made in His image. I'm going to tell you what grace is by first telling you what justice and mercy is. Justice is getting exactly what you deserve. You stole something and you go in front of a judge, and the judge says, you stole something, you're going to jail for 5 years. Mercy is getting less of what you deserve. You go in front of a judge, and they say, well, you stole something, you get 2 years of prison. Grace is something entirely different. It's something it's hard for us human beings to even understand. You stole something, you go in front of a judge, and you're sentenced to 5 years in prison, and the moment you're about to serve that prison sentence, someone steps up and says, I'm going to serve that prison sentence for him, he can go free. That's grace. And that's what Jesus has done for every single person here. Something we did not deserve and we did not earn. So I encourage all of you that resonates with you at all, I encourage you to open up the greatest, most powerful book ever to exist in the history of the world. One book and a common theme, a God that created us, we rebelled, He redeemed us, and we live forever in harmony with Him. That's what the whole book is about. It's a lot more complex than that, but that's kind of the SparkNotes version of the most important book ever to exist in the history of the world. 66 books, there's only one author. It's all the Word of God. There's more wisdom in just one page of the Bible than every single college campus in this entire country combined. And so, I'm going to end with two things. I promise, because I said I'd be done by 9. The first thing is when people say, Charlie, are we going to win? I get asked this question all the time. They say, Charlie, are we going to win? And I don't know if they're talking about politically, morally, culturally. And I know why people ask that question. They ask that question, some of them, because they want me to give them permission to give up. Because they want me to say, you know what, we're going to lose, which I don't believe. But let's say I said that. Then they'd be able to go home and say, hey, I just get to sit at home because I was told that we're not going to win. I am not a Caesar's Palace betting odd maker. I don't know if we're going to win or we're going to lose. Is the probability of victory a reason or not for us to go do the right thing? Absolutely not. That is never, ever, anywhere in the Bible or anywhere in biblical truth, are we supposed to weigh the odds of whether or not we think we should do something that is righteous and obedient. That is not what we're supposed to do. But let me tell you something about this beautiful nation that we live in, the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world, where we believe that our rights come from God, not from government, a republic of, by, and for the people, separation of powers, consent to the governed, independent judiciary, a constitutional republic that is enshrined based on biblical and eternal and divine truths. Let me tell you something about this country. This country has withstood the test of time and has been tried through a lot of things throughout our history. And there's something unique that is almost in the soul and the spirit of our nation. It's resilience, perseverance, grit, the ability to overcome the impossible, to shoot for the stars and sometimes actually land there on the moon, to build an interstate highway, win 2 world wars on 2 different fronts. And there's a story that I think embodies this better than any other. When you think things can't get any worse, and I know a lot of you have probably been watching television, you just close it, you're like, oh, I just can't take it anymore. I just feel like it is nothing but darkness and doom and gloom. Let me tell you a story about one of the darkest days in American history. A day that was, quote, that will always live in infamy. I'm talking about Pearl Harbor, when Japan preemptively struck us on a sunny day in Hawaii, and they sunk the entire Pacific Fleet. Thousands of American soldiers died in 30 minutes or less. We did not declare war on the Japanese, they declared war on us. We didn't know what we were going to do, and all of a sudden we didn't have just one war, we had 2 wars on our hands, because if we're at war with Japan, that means we're also at war in the European theater. America was scrambling, we didn't know what to do, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt gives the speech, this is a day that live in infamy, and Congress almost unanimously votes for a declaration of war in both theaters. America was solemn, somber, confused, and looking for direction, but there was one man that was smiling on December 6th, and that man was the greatest man to live in the 20th century, a person that we've deleted from our textbooks and from our history. It's Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was the greatest man to live in the 20th century because he was built for that moment. They hated him before the war, and they hated him after the war. He wrote 50 books, and he understood the world better than anyone else. He called the Nazi scourge before it happened, while it happened, and during it, and was able to defeat it. But he was smiling that morning. Why was he smiling? He walked into his war cabinet, probably on 2 hours of sleep, with a little bit of whiskey and a little bit of a cigar, the way Winston Churchill always would. A smile a mile wide you'd think would be Christmas morning. And his war cabinet was distraught, almost crying. And they said, Prime Minister, have you lost your mind? Why are you smiling? And he's smiling. He says, takes a puff of his cigar. We have won the war. And his war cabinet, his war minister shuffles his papers, says, sir, with all due respect, what do you mean we have won the war? Currently, they just bombed the church in North London. The Royal Air Force is losing 300 people a day. We barely got our troops out of Dunkirk. The opposition is planning a ground invasion of any moment at Brighton. We can't even field an army, let alone staff a navy. Our Air Force is a laughingstock against the Luftwaffe. What do you mean we have won the war? Winston Churchill takes another puff of his cigar. He says, I know the Americans. Once they awaken, it is over. We have won the war. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, when we awaken and we contest for truth, the war is won. It is a matter of how bad we want it. It's in our spirit. If we wanted to retreat, we'd go to the French. If we wanted a day off, we'd go to Italy. If we wanted to sue for peace, we would go back to France. If we wanted to complain, we would go to the United Kingdom. If you want to win, you go to America. It's in our spirit, it's in our soul. It's who we are. We are going to win. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.